There's 5 or 6 different tools which can dismantle the whole prosthetic leg. We've got a couple of different Allen keys. We'll be listing the different sizes on the website. So there's like 2 different types of Allen key, a spanner, a socket set, a screwdriver, and you might need a knife to remove that cosmetic cover. Whilst dismantling prosthetic legs, you've got to be careful of a few things. In general, it's all relatively safe, but sometimes the Allen key bolts can be really stuck in there. So sometimes you might require quite a bit of force. Maybe you've got the prosthetic leg in a vise, and with that force, if that Allen key bolt does actually give way, you could actually put quite a lot of pressure onto your elbow and hit it on something. Also, when removing that cosmetic cover, using a knife, you've obviously got to be very careful, making sure that you're cutting away from you. That can sometimes be quite difficult, but once you've got that off, there isn't really any major health concerns. It's always a good idea, once you've finished dismantling prosthetic legs, to give your hands a good clean, use disinfectant, alcohol gel, or anything that you've got helpful like that. Obviously, a lot of these sockets have come in direct contact with patient stumps, so it's just always good to be safe in that regard. So we need to remember that all prosthetic legs are different, but I'm going to demonstrate how to dismantle 2 prosthetic legs now, a below knee and an above knee prosthetic leg. So first of all, we just need to find the right Allen key. And just here, to remove the pylon from the socket adapter, there are just a few Allen key nuts which need to be loosened, and usually just a couple of turns will do the trick. Maybe we don't need to do all 4 to make a full rotation, but maybe 3, and that just allows the pyramid joint to slip out. Okay, so now we've just attached the socket from the rest of the leg. In this case, the socket adapter has actually been molded into the socket, and unfortunately this can't be used. Although this is useful in many ways, because it's been molded into the prosthetic leg, we can't use that. So I've already removed the socket from the rest of the prosthetic leg, and now what we can do here is remove the foot from this adapter here. So how I'm going to do that is just release these Allen key nuts at the bottom, just a little bit more, and then that should just slip off. So here we have a foot. Here we've kind of got like an adapter, but it's a very small pylon. Both of these can be used. These are very useful. So we'll put those in a safe place. So a lot of these sockets are made of fiberglass. Unfortunately, we can't recycle them. So they do need to go to landfill. However, there are other sockets that are made of different types of plastic, and those can be recycled. Unfortunately, this can't be recycled, so we'll throw that away. Now I'm going to dismantle an above knee prosthetic leg. Obviously I took off the cosmetic cover earlier, but this is how it looks. We've got several different components here: a foot, a pylon, a knee joint, and a socket adapter, all of which can be removed. So starting from the bottom, I just pick up the right Allen key, undo a few of these Allen key nuts. These in some cases have been tightened and used, and for a few years rust can build up, so they get stuck. And what I find is actually by putting some WD-40 on these, if they are stuck, and maybe just leaving it like 24 hours, let that WD-40 soak into the nut, and then the next day, just with an Allen key, it should get it off with ease. Sometimes I can use an impact driver as well with the same hex key size just there. That can make for a much faster job, but it's often quite loud. But I personally just enjoy using the Allen key. So now that the foot has been removed, we've got an adapter and a pylon. In this case, the adapter has actually been glued on, so we're not going to try to remove that. It's all good. So we'll just remove the pylon from the other end, and we'll just keep that as it is. So we've got a different Allen key for this section. Just a few turns, and we can pull that out. It comes out with ease. That's obviously going to be very useful for recycling, so we'll keep that. And now we're down to the knee and the socket adapter. So again, picking up the right Allen key, this should come out with just a few turns. Yeah, I'd like to remind you that knees come in all different shapes and sizes as well. I've just got a few examples of over here of knees that do come through our door. So this here, that knee has been removed. In a moment, I'm just going to remove this tape, and just here is a knee release, which has another different type of Allen key on the other side. So the knee release, in some cases, the prosthetic leg might be like a sort of fixed knee. So when the amputee walks, the knee doesn't automatically bend as the amputee walks. It all depends on the amputee's preferences or lifestyles. They might prefer to have a rigid, solid leg whilst walking. In that case, they'll have this knee release. So if they do wish to sit down or go on a bus, whatever, they can release the knee, and then their straight leg will then become bent. So there's just a small Allen key on the back there, which I can remove by just a few turns on each. Now the bolts which have come out are very useful. So once I've unscrewed it out of the socket and it becomes loose, I can take those small little nuts and then screw them back into that locking mechanism, so it all stays together. I'll just remove this tape here. We can remove the tape, and then there we've got a knee, which is extremely useful for the partners in Africa. Just to give you a couple more ideas of how those knees might look, and here's quite a chunky one. This doesn't have a locking mechanism. So this one here is intended for, as the amputee walks, the knee bends as their other knee bends, so they'll be able to walk more naturally. The same goes for here. This is a much more sort of open design, so you can see the actual mechanics going inside. And then this is a different type of knee that kind of has a pylon built into it. So these are very common. In fact, there's an adapter which kind of usually fits in there, and then the socket would go on top of that. And then these pylons, which are part of the whole fiberglass outer casing, they come in different lengths. So once you've removed the foot from just here, this remains an entire unit and can be put aside, ready to be sent to us. So just finishing off with the socket on this above knee prosthetic, it has these leather straps on, which are extremely useful for the partners in Africa. So to remove those, in some cases they can be riveted on. If they are riveted, you could get like an angle grinder, maybe, just to sort of wear off the top. You could also get like a metal cutting saw on the other side of the leather to cut. But in this case, it's just a flat head screwdriver, which will remove that with just a few turns. So once that's been removed, once we've removed that, this is very useful. This is a leather strap which will be used to hold the prosthetic leg onto the amputee when it reaches Africa. And finally, unlike the below knee prosthetic leg, which we've just dismantled, and here's just to demonstrate, we've got two different socket adapters. On this one, the socket adapter has been molded into the socket, and I can just like to remind you that unfortunately we can't use this, we can't recycle it, so we're going to dispose of that. But in this case, we can remove the socket adapter, and we do that by using the same Allen keys. And on the bottom, on the other side of the socket, there's a plate which those Allen keys kind of screw into. We can just remove those, again with just a few twists. Jesus. I suppose a lot of the kind of mid-range prosthetic legs, which make up the majority of prosthetic legs out there, they are relatively straightforward to dismantle because they're designed to be modular. Amputees, they grow, their stump might change shape, so if their stump changes shape, then their socket needs to be changed as well. So this needs to be adaptable, or they need to create a new socket in order to put it onto the rest of the prosthetic leg. But usually an amputee, depending on what country it's come from, will usually insist that they have a whole new prosthetic leg, even though it's just the socket that they've needed a new one of. So now that the socket adapter has come out of the socket there, I'm just going to put those together. So that came from the other side of the socket, the inside, and this was the outside. And then just to keep it all together, I'm going to just screw these back in so it keeps it all together. And then once that's all secured, we can put that in the pile, ready to be sent to Legs for Africa.